Let's go.
Well, welcome to this week's edition of the Don Cherry Grapevine podcast. We were voted biggest and best by Apple in 2020, and we're sponsored by spreads.ca. And Dad, we put a little bit of money on the Conor McGregor fight, and you called it last night. This is Sunday, so the McGregor fight was Saturday.
We had a long day yesterday, or I had a long day. I started with the first game, and
Vancouver, Montreal.
Yeah, and Montreal, and I'm glad I picked Montreal to end up first of all the Canadian division. They're on the road now. Of course, it doesn't make any difference at home.
Yeah,
they don't have a good record. They never had a good record at home.
No, they were terrible at home. They had the worst power play at home last year, and they had the third best power play on the road.
You know why? From my experience, I would say that as soon as thing goes wrong with the power play, they start booing. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I thought they were known for razzing their goalie.
Well,
Fast.
That's another thing, too. Patrick Waugh will tell you about that one.
Yeah.
Remember that day?
Oh, that was classic.
He was playing.
What do you call that? The Bronx cheer? What's
Bronx
that?
cheer.
Yeah.
They were playing Detroit, I think.
He'd play in Detroit, and he should have been pulled. I mean, he was just having a bad game. I mean, every goalie has a bad game.
So do you think the coach didn't pull him to make a point?
Mario Tremblay. And he was the coach. Him and like he was the leader in the dressing room, Patrick Waugh. I mean, he knew how wouldn't he would. And I don't think Mario Tremblay liked it. And he left him in there. And he should have got him out of there. And soon as he put his hands up when the crowd, remember when the crowd
cheered when he made him save.
And he put his hands up. And he finally had to take him out. I mean, and I knew when he was coming out, he'd never play another game. I knew it because he's a proud guy. And then he got on the bench. Remember, he went right by and he went over. I forget who he went over.
Well, there was the owners in the
owners
first row, right
yeah,
behind the bench,
I
wasn't
forget
there?
the guy's name.
Was it Jeff Molson?
No, I don't think it was one of the Molsons. I think it was the general manager. Anyhow, he went over and he says, "I'll never play another game for the Montreal Canadiens." And then he goes to Colorado. And he wins how many cups he win? 2, anyhow.
2, I think.
Yeah. I mean, he was a fantastic goalie. He really was. Yeah. And how did we get into that? At home, yeah.
Bronx cheer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but
so we watched that game last night, and then I don't think Vancouver didn't look very good. I don't know what's wrong with them. That's a lot of the questions when we were saying the two questions we were getting: what's wrong with Edmonton and what's wrong with Vancouver?
Well, Vancouver's got a lot of injuries, and they just don't. Boy, I like to talk positive all the time. I talk about Montreal. Yeah. I mean, they got something going. They really do. Now, if they can keep, the big thing is they go home, and they've been on the road the whole time, and they go home, they might lose it. They really worked hard, and I have to say about Vancouver that they had the puck every goal. They had the puck and they gave it away. Can't blame Holtby. I thought Holtby played a pretty good game.
No, both the goalies. I mean, that game last night, that could have been 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Montreal could have got.
Montreal's got I don't know, they got something going. They're bigger, they're tougher. And Shea Weber, I still think he's the best defenseman in the whole league, as far as I'm concerned. He hits, he really hits, he scores. I mean, he does everything.
And then what was
Block
the next
shots.
game? What was the next game you watched?
No, that was the last game.
No, then we watched Winnipeg, Ottawa.
And I'd have to say Winnipeg. You talk about a beautiful arena.
Yeah.
I mean, they
put a little thought into it.
And they had back of the Winnipeg bench, they have the logo, just monstrous logo. So anyhow, the trade we should talk about is Pierre-Luc Dubois. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, he only got 18 goals last year. I know he did pretty good in the playoffs and that, but Patty Lemine, he is if he thinks, as you said, Tim, if he thinks he's going to an easy place to play.
I know. I think he might be jumping from the frying pan into the fire with Tortorella.
Well, he benched Max. I mean, if you don't play a guy, Max Domi, if you don't play him, then he's benched. So
like one period or like
you bench a guy a whole period, you don't get on a period. He's benched no matter what you say. If you think you're going to an easy place with Tortorella, You better put out.
But the
Dubois, he benched the whole. He benched the whole game.
Yeah. The funny thing is with that whole thing though is that you knew that Dubois wanted out of Columbus because of Tortorella, but I never really heard why the guy wanted out of Winnipeg.
Yeah, and Winnipeg's great spot. I mean, I used to like going there. I used to go to the Fairmont till they changed their sauna. And
well, we filmed the movie, the two movies we had, right, Tim? We went out there and we filmed most of it in Winnipeg. And I was out there too during the production. And you and I loved Winnipeg.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah.
I remember we went through. I remember we went through the older part to see the beautiful mansions with their stone mansions and the wraparound porches, and it was just, you know what? It was just the right. I always like it was just the right size for a
Rochester,
city,
New York.
Like Rochester. You could go from one end to the other, and you ask people for directions because it was before GPS. And everything was 15 minutes. Well, you go down 15 minutes. Everything just 15 minutes away, and that's a sign of what I like in a city. You can get around easy.
And they really had nice restaurants.
Oh my goodness, their restaurants. They must be the restaurant capital of Canada per
They are the
people.
slushy capital of the world.
Slushy. Oh,
They're what?
slushies.
The slushies, the 7-Eleven, you get a slushie. They sell more slushies than anywhere in the world.
Well, but getting back to your question, I don't know why he wanted to leave. Because Maurice is easy to get along with. One of the best coaches. He gets along with everybody. If you could get along with Bufflin and all those guys, and not say bad words about him, I just don't understand. Anyhow, I hope Dubois comes through. He's got a lot of pressure on him too because the people just loved Lalline. That he get 2 goals before he left.
Yeah, then he got hurt, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all folds out. Like again, I think the big question is Lalline going to be able to get along with Tortorella? Like with Tortorella, he must know that, okay, some guys, you as you said, you knew needed the whip, and some guys didn't need the whip. And
and I never saw Maurice ever put any pressure on him.
No.
Everybody else seems to play for him and seems to like him.
Yeah. Yep. So that was good. And then we watched the Conor McGregor fight, and so we watched McGregor sail into. They were in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi, and he
was a big favorite.
He was a big favorite, and he sailed in with probably a $200 million yacht, and he drove in that Rolls Royce, was probably $1 million car. And Dad goes, I just can't see him being hungry like the other guys from Louisiana, right?
And he lost.
He just was. He lost the last fights. Now he's the last fight with McGregor, and so you were going, I don't know, and then
I said he's not hungry, and I don't care what you say. For instance, Montreal is hungry. They want to win. They've been put down so long and everything. Montreal Canadiens are hungry.
So you think you can equate that to hockey, right? Like
you can tell. I can tell a hungry hockey club, and I can tell a nervous hockey club. Like Vancouver's nervous right now. They're nervous and they've got a lot of injuries. They'll be better. But I could tell. I love the story.
Is it a way they skate? Like, just give us a hint. There's got to be something. Like,
I can't tell
you
what
what
it
is. They don't have a
is.
pep in their skating, or
Well, first of all, he never had a shirt and tie on. The first time he never had
McGregor,
and he had his head shaved. And in the weigh-in, not in the weigh-in, but I says he doesn't look right. He just
I think he won the first round. Like, it was close, but he probably won the first round. And then between the rounds, he was just
standing there. He didn't care.
Didn't stand there. Took a drink of water. The guy's talking to him. He's like, yeah. But if you didn't see it, he didn't take a dive. I mean, he really got.
Oh no, he got knocked out. But I could tell he wasn't hungry. And if you're not hungry when you get in that ring, boy, other sports you can float along, but in boxing,
you hesitate in that ring, right? You're.
I remember reading about Jack Dempsey, who I must tell you the story about Jack Dempsey. But Estelle Taylor was an actress, and he was married to Estelle Taylor, and he lost to Gene Tunney. Gene Tunney couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag, and he was a Marine, and I think he was a good fighter, but he wasn't like Jack Dempsey. And she said, Jack, how did you ever lose to a guy like Gene Tunney? And he said, dear, it's tough to run at 5 o'clock in the morning in silk shorts. What he meant was he wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
Now you had it one time you met him, didn't you, Jack Dempsey?
Oh, Jack Dempsey.
That was one of your biggest thrills, you said.
Oh, I go on about Jack Dempsey. I could go on. Okay, I'll tell you the whole story. They used to have a thing in the Hickok Award. That's what they call it in Rochester. And I remember the whole team went there. They did American Hockey League. We were and we went there, and they had guys like Henny Youngman and Frank Sinatra. I mean, it was big time. It was really so. Joe Crozier, who was the general manager and coach, he was going to speak. But then he got there and he saw all these speakers, and Henny Youngman's the only guy I've ever seen that they were asking for mercy from laughing. We were in another room, and guys were on the table laughing anyhow. So, and all of a sudden, all these big speakers there, and they were Hickok Award. And they give a diamond belt. And Carl Yastrzemski at the time, I didn't even know how to say his name, Yastrzemski. So I said. So Joe come up to me, and I'd had a couple of beers, 2 or 3 beers, and because I didn't, I was in the other room. And he says, "You're speaking tonight." I said, "I'm speaking, and I never spoke in my life before."
Yeah, this is in Rochester. You were a player, so
I was a player.
Yeah.
You were, yeah.
And
he bailed on you.
That
he said, "I'm not playing." I said,
what
I
a
can't.
feeling.
I'm speaking after Henny Youngman and guys like that, and I didn't even know how to pronounce his name. So he says, "You're speaking," and that's it. So what am I going to do? And he walks away. So they brought everybody to a green room. All the speakers and great speakers and everybody was up at the bar. I remember at the end, it was a long bar, and I was standing at the end sort of in the dark, the floater of floaters. Nobody even knew who I was or cared. And I'm just standing there looking and petrified. And the back door opened. I heard the back door open, and I thought it was just another guy. And a guy come up and put his hand on my shoulder. It was Jack Dempsey.
Oh.
Jack Dempsey.
You just must have almost fainted.
I almost fainted. And I looked right, and he had a black suit on. He had a white shirt and a white tie. And he had black hair that slicked back. It was, it was a style. And he had a great big cigar. He didn't even know what it was.
Didn't he even ask you? He asked you.
Well, then he come up and he said, "Hi, son, how you doing?" And I says, I could hardly speak Jack. I knew who he was right away. He looked like the same. He was just beautiful.
Well, he looked like a movie star. Yeah?
Oh, but the big cigar and everything like that, and he was all tanned up, and he'd been on Florida some. And he says, "What is this? What? He didn't even know."
He's in Rochester, New York. Like, where am I? What are we doing?
Yeah, they brought him in and everything, and it was unbelievable. So
that's the second heavyweight champ you met. You met Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier, I did.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite as enamored as they say.
Yeah.
Like I could hardly speak. So he said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, this is the Hickok Award, and whoever wins the Hickok Award." He said, "Well, I didn't, He says, "No, they've got a special thing for you. I hope you don't mind me saying, but they've got diamond cufflinks for you." He couldn't care less. So he says, I said, "Can I?" Now I'm speaking. I said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I know you did an exhibition tour," and I said, "My dad was the second when you're in Kingston," and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember." And I don't think he ever remembered, but I remember. Didn't remember my dad, but he remembered the exhibition tour, and but I couldn't think of anything more to say, and all the floaters at the front saw him in the back, and then they turned around and they all, Jack Dempsey was Jack Dempsey. A lot of people don't know who Jack Dempsey was. I mean, Jack Dempsey was the greatest heavyweight of all time. And they all come and he says, and he saw them come and he says, "Well, goodbye, son."
It was over.
It was over. And boy, how did we get into Jack
Well,
Dempsey?
I asked you. I just said, you were talking about, you met
McGregor.
a few.
The fight, McGregor. I just knew he wasn't hungry. Yeah. He just wasn't. And I knew he was going to lose. We should have done the betting on then. Walking in, could we done a betting then?
Yeah, I think it's right up to the start of the fight. So.
And he was a big, heavy favorite.
Yeah, he was. You had to lay $1. You had to lay $3 to get $1. So he was a big favorite.
Yeah, but he just didn't look.
Well,
right.
you know, the whole thing was weird too. Is that he walked into the ring first, which is strange because usually like the guy that's kind of like he's the main card, right? Not the Dustin Poirier, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other guy came in second, and then when they were announcing, they do the introductions, he was first, and you go. It's kind of like why? Like it's like he's kind of like the second ran in this, So
yeah, I mean he's got enough money. I'd hate to say anything, but he's got enough money.
Well, do they do that so that there'll be a third fight? Like, is that?
I hope not.
I know what I think happened. I think Dana White, he's the guy that owns UFC. He'd probably pull his hair out. They wanted McGregor to fight the Russian cabal. I don't know his last name, and he wants to come out of retirement, but. Now that
why isn't he?
He fought and his dad trained him. The Russian cabal. I can't pronounce his last name. His dad trained him since he was a little kid, and his father passed away after the McGregor fight.
Boy, he was.
And he said, he goes, my heart's not going back into the gym without my dad. So,
boy, he was a mean guy.
Well, there's no way McGregor would. I don't think there's anybody that would beat him.
No, I don't think anybody'd ever beat that guy.
So, but. And I said the funny thing was that we watched. You were pretty good because then we watched the fight before. Was a guy named Mike Chandler was fighting. It was an American. He was fighting a New Zealander, and he was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And you said, Dad goes, he's going to knock him out. Watch, and he was. And again, he was the big underdog.
Oh, he was just a little guy.
A little guy. The other guy had
no tattoos.
No, had to be a foot taller. And boy, did he ever knock him out.
Oh,
What's that?
and
What's
the big
that
Australian. I thought the Australian. The big Australian with his flag in the back and everything, he didn't do anything.
What's that saying you always say, Dad? It's not how big the dog is in the fight, but how big the fight is in the dog, right?
This guy, he was just a little guy. Eh?
Yeah, boy, did he ever knock him out. But I said the funny thing, we noticed that all the guys that were fighting in the main event, they'd touch gloves before they'd come out. Yeah. And then when they go out when they start to fight, then they touch gloves again, except for the women that fought.
Oh, yeah, the women.
That.
They didn't touch gloves.
They hate. Boy, you talk about
viciousness.
Viciousness. They never let up.
Yeah. And I said the funny thing was, there was I forget her name, but she was from Scotland. And she came with the Scotch flag, and she was fighting an American. And came with the American flag. And again, in Abu Dhabi, I guess they could have people in the arena, so they were all full of Irish. So I said, who would the Irish be rooting for? The Scotch, or would they be rooting for the American?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, and it was full of Irishmen too.
Right.
That's getting back to not the women again. How could a guy lose in front of all those Irishmen? And they were singing songs. They were.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. We didn't seem, his heart wasn't in it, eh?
I don't think so. No, and he as they say, he didn't take a dive. He
got knocked cold. But two women went at it, and
that was the best fight of the night.
Yeah. They weren't knocked out, but they should have been.
They didn't like each other. That's for sure. And